If you've ever sat down at the piano full of excitement to finally start playing, you practice for a few weeks every single day, but then you hit a wall, and then you slam the piano lid down, you kick the keys, and you storm away, this video is for you. Because today we're talking about why you keep quitting the piano, and what to do about it. You'll learn how to break this cycle that you're in, how to increase your dopamine, and actually train your brain to want to practice the piano, and the exact method for how you can finally begin your piano journey once and for all. There's a framework in psychology called the emotional cycle of change. And when I first saw this, I immediately thought, of course, this is what is exactly happening with my students. Here's how it works. Stage 1 is what I call the musical call. Something happens. You might hear a beautiful piece of piano music on your Spotify playlist. Or maybe you walk past one of those pianos at the mall and someone is playing a beautiful sonata. Or maybe you're at a sunset dinner at a beautiful restaurant and this beautiful piano melody comes over the speakers. Whatever this moment was for you, something probably stirred inside of you, and you finally decide that this is the year you're going to learn piano. Because I could do that. 5-year-olds play the piano, I can play the piano. It'll be so beautiful. And I've always felt the call to become a musician. And the world is your oyster. The piano seems just so full of possibility and new opportunities and becomes a new way to be creative. So you buy the keyboard, or you buy the piano, or you get your piano from your grandma and you move it into your apartment or your house, and you download a bunch of piano apps, or you buy a huge stack of piano books, or you start going to in-person lessons, even though they might be kind of expensive, and you announce to all your friends, I am learning the piano and becoming a pianist. But stage 2 is when reality sets in. The notes become a little bit harder to read than you expected. Your left hand doesn't cooperate with your right hand, and practicing starts to feel frustrating instead of joyful like you thought it was going to be, and you begin to quietly wonder within yourself if this is what you should have done. Because maybe you're not actually cut out to become a pianist and learn the piano. This stage is called informed pessimism. You now know enough to know that learning the piano is a little bit harder than you thought, and maybe even a lot harder than you thought. But at this stage, you start doom scrolling in your mind, and you don't know that if you can just keep going, it will get easier. But before it starts to get easier, you hit the rock bottom, the valley of despair. And this is where most adult piano beginners quit. And I want to describe to you exactly what this feels like so you know if you encounter it yourself. Let's set the scene. You sit down to practice and just nothing is happening that day. Your left hand isn't cooperating. The notes are just too difficult. The patterns aren't working in your hands correctly. You keep hitting wrong notes and it just sounds awful. It's just god awful. And you feel stupid. You feel too old to play, because why are there 5-year-olds that can play beautiful, huge piano pieces and you can't play this stupid little song? What is wrong with me? And you also might be feeling, what is the point? Why did I start this? I thought this was going to be fun. I thought this was going to be a way to be creative. And I've been feeling this call inside of me for so long to become a musician. And so why isn't it happening like I thought? And you compare the sound that's coming from your fingers to the sound that you heard at the beginning of this whole thing when you were sitting at that beautiful cafe and the piano music came over the speakers. But what you're playing sounds nothing like that. It sounds horrible, and it's so incredibly frustrating. And you're in this dark, deep depths of despair, and you don't see a way out of it. Because when you're in this valley, how do you climb out of the valley? How do you climb out and escape this feeling? And so you don't climb out of the valley. You avoid it. You close the piano lid, or you gift it to another family member and say, oh well, I guess it just wasn't for me. Or you put that keyboard back in the closet, and every time you walk by that closet with the keyboard inside, you hear it quietly laughing at you because you are a failure. Does this sound familiar? Sorry if that got a little bit too real, but I think so many adult beginners go through this experience, and it makes me so sad, because if they had someone to support them or a more supportive way to learn the piano, I don't think that they would feel this way, or at the very least, they could see a way out of this valley. Because if you're in the valley of despair, it doesn't mean that you are not capable of becoming a musician or that you don't have what it takes to become a musician. Because it's a completely predictable thing that everyone goes through when they're going through change. It's literally called the emotional cycle of change. But I think music especially is so personal, and it feels like a reflection of us as people and our intelligence. Music especially becomes so discouraging when we're not good right away. But the people that actually become musicians and escape this valley are not the ones who didn't go through it, because everyone goes through it. Even the 5-year-olds go through it. It's the musicians that are aware of what's happening to them and have the support and skills they need to escape it. How to break out of the cycle. Number 1, know the valley is coming before you get there. Like we've talked about, you'll feel feelings of despair and stupidity and like, what is even the point? And you just want to smash your piano with a hammer. But if you know this valley is coming, you can be aware of when you're in it. It's almost like a panic attack. If you've experienced a panic attack before, when you have another one, you know that it's coming. And so if you know this valley of despair is coming, you can be aware of it and you can tell yourself, okay, I'm in the valley right now. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's dark. Yes, I feel so stupid and too old and like I'm never going to be a musician. But I know, because Alden told me that this is temporary. This is only temporary, and I will get through it and it'll be okay. The second thing might be a little counterintuitive, but I want you to lower your standards. I want you to lower your standards. Especially women, I think we have such high standards for ourselves, and when we fail to meet those standards, we think that personally something is wrong with us. And especially when it comes to classical music that has such high standards, and deservedly so. I just admire concert pianists so much, but we haven't seen the years and years and years and hours and hours and hours and pain that they've gone through to reach that point. So lower your standards. You do not have to become a classical pianist that's performing at Carnegie Hall with Timothée Chalamet dancing ballet behind you. You do not have to become that. And so lower your standards for yourself. Unless you do, of course, want to become an elite pianist, then that's a whole different conversation from this conversation. And you might need to go to a conservatory for that, and definitely in-person lessons for that. But if your ultimate goal is to not be a concert pianist or a professional pianist even, if that isn't your goal, lower your standards, because that will just bring you so much more peace, I think, if you don't have to meet those really, really difficult standards. Because here's a secret from someone who's been in very competitive music schools. Even the top students in those music schools are always trying to meet those standards, and sometimes they never do because they are so high, and it tears students, especially in music conservatories, it just tears them apart, and it's really bad. It's really bad for your mental health. And so lower your standards for yourself, because music can be so beautiful and good even if you're not playing these 10-page piano sonatas with the New York Philharmonic, you know? So lower your standards and peace will follow. The third thing you're going to do is to train your brain to want to practice. I think the most unique part of my book is that I use a method that one of my amazing piano teachers taught me when I was little, and that is to build a treat bin. And I know this sounds really childish, and you might have had a treat bin when you went to the dentist when you were little and you got a little toy after they cleaned your teeth. But it's kind of that same concept, and I'm going to tell you why it works. Let's talk about it in the context of the Wild Pianist. Before you begin your Wild Pianist lessons, you build a treat bin for yourself. And so every single time you practice, you get either a small, a medium, or a large treat. The small treats are things like a singular M&M or a tiny piece of chocolate, usually like food-based things or something like that. The medium treats are like bigger, like a pair of socks or like a cute t-shirt or something like that. And you get medium treats when you complete bigger challenges, and then the large treats are in the book specifically when you complete entire lessons, and there are 7 days in each lesson. So when you complete this whole chunk of learning and you really develop those skills, you get a big treat. That could be a physical thing like a beautiful new sweater, but I really encourage my students and my readers to have it be something outside of their home that's an experience, like going to a coffee shop and taking a little Saturday morning and journaling about music or about their life or whatever, or going to a free museum or going to a park and just sitting amongst the tulips. I don't know. I think this treat method specifically is so effective because it raises the dopamine levels in your brain every time you practice to expect this treat. And so it physically makes you want to practice more. The best method, I think, to learn the piano is, of course, having an in-person teacher. The problem is, for a lot of adults, though, is the cost of that. The average piano lesson costs about $100 plus, depending where you live in the country. And so spending thousands and thousands of dollars a year on these in-person piano lessons can be really challenging for a lot of people. And so my solution to this, and the whole reason I started Wild Music Co., is to write The Wild Pianist. It combines this emotional part of becoming a musician as well as the technical aspects you need to actually learn the piano, learn music, and start playing beautiful songs. And then once you make it through the book, you can take the knowledge you've learned from it and actually go forward and learn music and play sheet music and grow and play the songs you want to play instead of always being chained to a piano app. There's 70 lessons in the book, and I go over literally everything you need to know, and I've jam-packed it with as much musical knowledge as I've learned in my entire life of learning the piano and teaching the piano. So if you're not able to commit to in-person lessons, try this book and see if you enjoy playing the piano. Even if you don't get my book, that's okay, but try to build this treat bin for yourself and see if it works, because it really could work for you and you don't know until you try. Before we end the video, guys, if you're in this valley of despair right now, just know that this is the time when most people quit because it is so challenging. It's the darkest part and the hardest part of your piano journey, and it feels so permanent when you're in it, but you don't have to be one of the ones that quits. And I believe if you just keep going, you can get through this challenging stage that you're in. And even though you don't know how far your musical path stretches in front of you, you do know what's behind you, and you can turn around and see the beautiful seeds throughout your life that have been planted to bring you this musical call. And these seeds are going to help you bloom into this beautiful, feeling, thoughtful, creative musician. And the day that you finally sit down at your piano and something beautiful comes out that finally sounds like music, all of this is going to be worth it. You'll move from the storm that you're in into the light and into this musical goodness that I believe in so much is possible for you. Because, my friend, this path has always been in front of you. You just needed someone to show you the map. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you got something from it. I'll leave a link to the Wild Pianist book in the description, as well as my free guide. It tells you exactly what you need to start playing, and it goes really in depth into keyboards and piano types, and even like the bench you need to start learning the piano. This video is part of the Piano Without Fear series, so be sure to like and subscribe so you get notified when the next video drops. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye, lovely musician.